Hey guys, it's Brittany. So today I'm going to go over a study on cadmium poisoning and whether or not the isopathic remedy cadmium sulf can potentially protect against the toxic effects of cadmium poisoning in rats, or mice, I should say. Never want to make a mistake a rat study for a human study, but it's also not really the type of study you could easily do in humans. So it's a really fascinating study, though. Very tough. I can't tell you how much time I've spent trying to make sense of this one and unpack it. Anyway. So they have this was done in 2001, and it's coming out of Calcutta, Italy. Here it is. 2001. This is the University of Kalyani in West Bengal. Later, they talk about being in Calcutta. So this is comparative efficacy of 2 microdoses. This is a meaning of a 30C and a 200C of a potentized homeopathic drug, cadmium sulf, in reducing the genotoxic effects produced by cadmium chloride in mice, a time course study. So they had a whole bunch of different arms, which is what they're sort of getting at with a time course study. They took these mice. Some of them got the homeopathic preparation of cadmium sulf before being poisoned with cadmium chloride. Some got the homeopathic preparation cadmium sulf after getting poisoned with cadmium chloride, and some got it both before and after. And you can sort of extrapolate the potential clinical insights you would get from this. Being very careful not to over-extrapolate, because this is a mouse study. But, right, you're trying to get at how, if you have been poisoned by cadmium, are they going to show that if you take cadmium sulf after getting poisoned, that nothing happens? Or is it going to be that, you're only protected if you take it before, or neither, or you have to take it both times, right? Like, they're getting at that question. Then they're getting at how long it takes for something to be helpful. This, to me, would be the biggest issue with trying to extrapolate from mice to humans, because so they have all these different arms. Some mice, get cadmium sulf and then poisoned, and then 6 hours later they're sacrificed and the different markers they're looking at get checked. And some, it's 96 hours. 96 hours to a mouse is very different than 96 hours to a human. So I'm not quite sure what to make of the different time stamp. Sorry, I've been reading too much Hahnemann Materia Medica. It's not a time stamp, but the times at which these mice are sacrificed, I'm not sure how to translate that into humans. But anyway, so what did they look at when it comes to cadmium poisoning? So cadmium poisoning, it's not one of those super common poisonings that you hear of, like arsenic or mercury or something, but it is significant for smokers because there is cadmium in cigarettes. It was interesting, I found when I was looking some stuff up on cadmium poisoning for this video that there is a theory and some evidence for this theory that a lot of the issues we see with chronic smokers, COPD, lung cancer, that might potentially actually be chronic cadmium poisoning because they get so much over the course of their lifetime if they're chronic smokers. So anyway, it obviously causes a lot of lung problems. It also causes a lot of renal problems, really tanks your kidneys. And so there's a lot of blood pressure problems because the kidneys have a lot to do with blood pressure, and a lot of electrolyte imbalances because the kidneys choose which electrolytes to pee out or keep in. Interestingly, though, there was not a lot that I could find on genotoxic effects of cadmium, which is what this article was looking at. I suspect that they're looking at it because it's something easy to measure in a laboratory in mice. But I wish they would have talked a little bit more about why genotoxic effects and not other effects. Anyway, So the genotoxic effects that they looked at, there were 4. Chromosome aberrations, CA, micronucleated erythrocytes. Sorry, so chromosome aberrations, changes to the chromosomes. Micronucleated erythrocytes, meaning small nucleus in red blood cells. So this is often a marker for genotoxic effects in people. And then the mitotic index. This is how fast your cells are dividing. The more you have lots of cells dividing, the more it's usually considered cancer, right? Got a lot of cells dividing and they shouldn't be. Sperm head anomaly. This is particularly looking at reproductive markers. So anybody who's gone through any sort of fertility problems knows if you do a semen analysis, they're looking at sperm count and morphology. Are the sperm normal? Now, and sperm are great to use in this particular case because they're made all the time. And so, if you've got some sort of environmental toxin that's hurting your reproductive function, shall we say, cells, that's the word I was looking for, reproductive cells, then you'll see it much faster with sperm than you will with eggs because sperm have to be made all the time. They're placebos. There were a couple different controls or placebos. So they had succussed alcohol, meaning they basically made alcohol 30C and an alcohol 200C. So that controls for any potential effects of alcohol on its own and succussion on its own. They also did cadmium chloride untreated, so with no homeopathic remedy, and they don't list it here, they also did cadmium sulf, the homeopathic preparation, on its own without the poisoning. So they looked at all of these different things. All right, the poisoning was an injection with 0.008% solution of cadmium chloride at 1 milliliter per 100 grams of body weight. So for their results, they found a decrease in the number of chromosomal changes, the decreased number of problematic red blood cells, and a decreased number of weird sperm when they treated with the homeopathic preparation. So this basically is saying that the homeopathic preparation of cadmium helped protect these mice from these genotoxic effects of the poisoning. However, weirdly, the mitotic index showed an apparent increase. So basically the cells were dividing even faster when treated with a homeopathic preparation. Okay, so what I've done here is I've gone to the table where they report their results for dosing with the homeopathic preparation of cadmium. This is so hard to make sure I say correctly every time. Before and after the cadmium chloride poisoning. It's a horrible table. I so wish they had reported their results differently. I really don't like it. But they obviously were not trying to please me when they made their table 20 years ago. Ha. Okay, so ignore the title. It's not descriptive at all. It's part of why I'm so confused. So this is basically showing you, so you've got these 4 different markers: mitotic index, chromosome aberration, micronucleated erythrocyte, and sperm head anomaly. And then you have how many hours between, so it's very confusing arm. So they, some mice were given the cadmium sulf homeopathic preparation first 6 hours before the poisoning, then they were poisoned, and then 6 hours after they were killed. I was trying to think of a nice way to say that, but I can't right now. Poor mice. This is so hard to read as somebody who loves animals. Then some, it was 12 hours, some it was 24 or 48, so on and so forth, up to 96, and they're trying to get at how long it takes, right? for it to work. Now, they were dosed every 4 hours, so if the mouse was in the 6-hour arm, they were dosed at 6 hours before the poisoning, and then I think 4 hours later, so 2 hours before the poisoning, poisoned, and then dosed again at 2 hours after and 6 hours after, and then killed. I hope that sort of makes sense. And so then there was an arm for 30 and there was an arm for 200. Like, there were so many friggin' arms in this study. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. So there were only five mice in every arm because there were so many friggin' arms. Yeah. So there were a lot of total mice, not a lot of mice per arm. So what they have is, so they've got the drug potency, then they've got, this is the treatment group, and this is the control group for every potency. Then they have their results, standard deviation, and percent increased, but then they have noted whether or not it was significant by a little letter after this. So you'll see this is 0.68B. That means it was significant. If you go down here, B equals P less than 0.01. So quite significant already at 12 hours, but not at 6, note. And it becomes more significant later. So we've got C's, which is P less than 0.001. So it's 10 times more significant at 72, not at 96 though. And so you sort of see this trend here. So these are all significant to the highest degree, P less than 0.001. And here again. And here again. So you can see from this table, there is a bit of a trend, which they talk about, where as time goes on, the results tended to get more significant. What you cannot see easily here at all is that they noted that in general, the 200C results tended to be more significant than the 30C, which again is more research evidence for the clinical observation that our high diluted remedies tend to work stronger than those that are not as highly diluted, contrary to what seems to be common sense. So this is for mice that were both treated before and after poisoning. So you can say, well, that's all well and good if I know I'm going to go get poisoned by something. I can dose before and after, and I'll be nice and set. But what about only before? So here we have post-treatment only. So these results were tended in general. I'm going to just circle the C's again so we can kind of see the trends. These tended to be less significant than pre and post, but still significant. And they do say in the results that in general, for the mitotic index, so that's how fast cells are dividing, that the most significant was pre and post poisoning treatment, but followed by that was post treatment, which is good because that's much more likely in the real world, right? Okay, so you can see by just my circles, it is less significant, but we still have plenty of significance, and it's the same trend that as time goes on, things are more significant. Now remember that it's not just time that's happening, it's also more doses because they're getting dosed every 4 hours. So you could argue it's either that it's been a long time since the poisoning or that they've gotten a whole bunch of doses since the poisoning, right? So why would mitotic index be the thing that's higher when all of the other genotoxic effects were lessened by the remedies? So they talk about this a little bit in the discussion, and it would be what I would sort of guess as well, although this is definitely not my area of expertise. The way they word this is that they see the homeopathic drug enhanced or activated the process of maintaining the structural integrity of chromosomes and sperm and protecting them from the destructive ability of cadmium chloride, right? They did this by enhancing the process of repair of DNA already damaged by activating specific enzyme systems to repair the damage. They then say the present study also noted a positive shift in the mitotic index in the cadmium chloride-fed mice, which may be linked to the replenishment of bone marrow cells and the necessity arising out of the exclusion or loss of damaged marrow cells due to the toxic chemical interaction of cadmium chloride. Meaning, so if cadmium chloride is doing all of this damage to your cells, you need to get new cells. So then you're going to be creating a lot of new cells, so the mitotic index would increase. So it seems that treating a poisoned mouse with the homeopathic preparation of cadmium sulf not only protected them, like decreased the number of chromosomal problems we saw, sperm problems we saw, but also the number of cells being pumped out increased, meaning most likely, although this is a bit of a leap, that normal cells are on the way to replace the ones that have been damaged. All right, so this is a really cool study. So I know these always get into the weeds a bit. I feel like the weeds are not gotten into enough with research because the devil's in the details, so to speak. But I hope it was relatively clear. And what's exciting about this is there is some evidence now for that our remedies are working on this genomic level, and they're working with poisonings. I hear a lot of talk about people who, they say, I need to detox, I need to do this, I need to do that because I've been exposed. And my answer has always been, well, I can just treat you homeopathically because our remedies work on these levels. Cadmium is not something that we can easily get rid of. Don't actually know about mice, so that would be a good thing to check out to see how well this translates from mice to humans. But, if mice are the same way, where it's not easy for them to excrete cadmium, we have to figure out how to be healthy even if we have it in our system. And so it seems our remedies are able to help with that. All right, so till next time.